How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to my channel here. Today is Thursday, March 21st, 2019. This is vlog number 3. I know I said I was going to try to do it as much as possible, like every day, but my schedule has been busy. I've been really tired, really drained. Haven't really had much motivation, haven't been feeling top-notch. I've actually missed taking my meds for a couple times here for my cholesterol and depression and stuff, so it's really been kind of getting me down. But anyways, I thought I'd follow up here, catch up a little bit on where we're at. So the other day on my first video that I made, I had received a comment, and like I said, I'm going to leave my comments open for everybody. They can leave positive or negative. The one thing that I'm definitely monitoring for is any kind of harassment from my soon-to-be ex-wife or anybody in association with her. And a post was left. It was worded pretty much the exact same way that my soon-to-be ex-wife would actually word it, other than the fact that spelling your, they put you-are, like they try to change it up to make it look convincing. But exactly the way the message was posted, it was exactly how she's been saying it to me, but more or less. So, and then was under the name Julie Martinez, you know, like a fictitious name, like it's a fake account just made up to quickly post something. She's done this before, where she's done it like on Facebook and whatnot when I used to have it. So it's not the first time, but I did take a screenshot of it or whatever, so that way I could have it for evidence. I just got to get time to get down to the courthouse and see about reopening up the restraining order case that I had open originally for her that was denied, because now the behavior is starting to reoccur again. So, but that's one thing. April 17th is not far away. Less than a month away, and that's when my hearing is at the Kandiyohi County Courthouse in Willmar, Minnesota. It's at 3:45 p.m. on the 17th of April. Anybody that wants to come to the hearing, you're more than welcome to. If you want to be supportive, you know, and see what happens in this hearing, you're more than welcome to. Remember that this hearing is for a dismissal hearing, as her attorney had filed for divorce just almost a month out from where I filed, and they're trying to claim jurisdiction in Grand Forks County, North Dakota, based on the fact that my daughter lives in North Dakota and has been there for the last 6 months. Again, I did not originally give permission for her to leave state with my daughter, or take her out of state, so her leaving state with my daughter, that was against my will. So that I don't see that being sufficient grounds allowing the jurisdiction to be transferred to Grand Forks County on that basis, because I did not approve of it. Second, the school she's attending was another reason why they gave to have jurisdiction out there, because she's been attending school out there in North Dakota when she was originally registered here in Minnesota. And again, I did not find out about the new school until probably, like, I don't know, a couple days, maybe a couple days prior to her first day of school. So again, I didn't register her out there. She registered her out there at the school. I had no part, no say, no nothing in it. So again, I don't see that as being grounds to allow it to be transferred out of there. The other reason for a county to request a transfer for a jurisdiction, basically, or a dismissal, you know, because of jurisdiction, is if the divorces were basically filed at simultaneous times, then the two courts would basically determine who has the best jurisdiction. Again, simultaneous times means roughly about, I'd say, less than a week apart, because it depends upon how, you know, give or take a few days, whatever, for the courts to process the paperwork. But again, this was not simultaneous. I had filed mine on February 11th, and I believe, if I remember correctly, hers was filed like on the 6th or 7th of March. Now, keep in mind, that's almost a whole month out. Another reason for them to claim was that they were in the process of filing for a divorce. Do keep in mind that I've been hearing that comment for months and seeing nothing in the mail. Until finally I file for a divorce. Then, of course, a month later, almost, I get paperwork from her attorney, whatever, because they filed there. Again, a month apart is not simultaneous times. They also said that that they were in the process of filing for a divorce. Okay, now process is not the actual filing of the divorce. Process means that you're whatever building up your information and stuff. If they wanted to have grounds to have it, jurisdiction out there in Grand Forks County, North Dakota, then they should have filed a lot sooner. I mean, they had my paperwork as of February. They shouldn't have waited a whole month to do it. I mean, it doesn't take that long. I put all my paperwork together within, I'd say, 2-3 days, and had it filed with the court and had it already mailed off to be served upon her. So if I can do that within a 2 to 3 day time period, why did it take them a month to get on it? I get attorneys are busy and stuff, but under the grounds where there's urgency, you would think that her attorney would be a lot quicker as far as getting the paperwork submitted and getting me served and all that stuff like that. So again, I feel when I go to this hearing, my ultimate goal is to get their request for dismissal dismissed, and the jurisdiction would be retained here in Kandiyohi County. For the pure fact of all that I just stated, and technically, legally, it would be, the morals and honesty and integrity and the actual legalities of it should be here in Kandiyohi County. If the judge approves their request, then obviously that shows the dishonesty of the judge and the integrity of the court system, and shows how dishonest they are and how unfair and unjust the system is. So that's kind of the most relevant information I have right now regarding that. Again, the hearing's April 17, 3:45 p.m., which is a Wednesday of 2019. And it's in Kandiyohi County Courthouse in Willmar, Minnesota. And that's kind of where we're standing at this point regarding that. I've been kind of going through all my stuff here. It's a preparing for the worst, that if they get granted their wish as far as, or request or whatever for the dismissal, and then it goes there. I know absolutely 99.9% sure that Grand Forks County is going to find in favor of her because of the situation and stuff, and then her living there and all that stuff. Which my daughter doesn't live with her mother; she lives with her grandmother. Which my soon-to-be ex has complained about her own mother, or the grandmother, on numerous occasions, and was very upset with her. And I told her at the time to, which again, it was a suggestion by me, and she obviously didn't care to take advantage of it, but what happened before Christmas, what took place after my daughter's little Christmas program on December 19th, between her and her mom, or between my soon-to-be exes and her mom, I should say, that what took place is I told her, I said, well, if you're not happy and you don't like the situation, I said, I get it's not going to be easy, and that, for our daughter to be just pulled out of school that she's been attending and transferred to a whole nother school, but I said, at least you're doing it during Christmas break, and then, yeah, she might have to start out a little fresh or whatever, but I mean, all her school status and everything that will transfer to the school, and then she could be at home living with her mother at the time, which I think would have been better in that situation. Not that I'm saying 100% that the environment is what I condone, but with the fact of what my soon-to-be ex was complaining about, I figured it would be a better environment for my daughter. But she never did any of that, so my daughter is still technically living with her grandmother. How that goes, I don't know. But again, if the court's find in her favor, I'm going to end up, I'm preparing for that worst situation. Anything that I have of value that I can, that's collectibles, so forth, I'm actually going to prepare. I've got 5 boxes out here, and I think I've got about 4 or 5 boxes in the bedroom at the moment that are all boxed up full of like my pop figures and some of my collectibles and stuff. But I've been going through them, taking pictures, and getting them ready to post online. Selling them to get the money, because the money I'm going to use to help pay my income taxes that I owe, because obviously the deadline for income taxes is April 15th. And I have to come up with $2,100 to pay in this year because of the fact that I'm filing married, separated, and I don't get tax breaks because of the situation, which I think is bogus because, yeah, my soon-to-be ex can sit there and claim my daughter, even though she hasn't been living in her household, which is bogus too, but she gets to claim my daughter on her taxes, and she's probably getting a better tax break. If nothing else, she's probably getting money back because of the lack of hours she worked in the year, because 3 of the months she sat at home living off of unemployment, and she was sleeping most of the time and just letting my daughter do whatever the hell she wanted. Pardon my language, but it's frustrating, and I admit I'm going to try to watch my P's and Q's and stuff, but it's just frustrating to know the stuff that she can get away with, and that, you know, and it favors her and stuff. So but again, selling my stuff, get the money for income taxes, and then the less stuff that I have here, the better, because if it comes down to me, if she gets custody of my daughter and then she gets child support, there's no point in me working my jobs anymore. I'm working 2 full-time jobs right now, even though I've got back and leg problems and everything, you know, from the military, and then plus the mental side of things. I'm working 2 full-time jobs, pushing myself over that edge at the moment just to survive because of child support that I pay for 2 boys with my second ex that I pay $900 a month for. And I apologize to any of you that are still here listening, that if a lot of this sounds like a repeat, but I'm just catching people up again, you know, trying to get the most relevant information, and I just want people to be aware of the situation. I know it sucks hearing a repeat and stuff, but I figure the best, you know, it plants into somebody's brain so they don't see it from a one-sided view. I don't want people to just take my side, and I don't want them to take her side, but if people hear the same information multiple times, it's more likely to plant in somebody's mind and realize, oh, okay, this is what he said, this is what it's about, this is that, you know, this and that, whatever, you know. So again, I apologize for the repeating. But that way, like I said, as far as me working 2 jobs, I don't see a point at that point because I'm paying $900 a month for 2 kids that I don't get to see. The system doesn't care about that. My ex doesn't care about that. And I know that somewhere along the line, this is going to be the exact same thing with my 3rd and final divorce here. So the less stuff that I have in my apartment, the better off, because then I'll give my 30-day notice. I'll move whatever I have out, whatever's left over after selling the majority of the stuff that I have. I'd probably live out of my car for as long as I can, until the bank repossesses my car on me for non-payment, because I won't have the money to pay for it. And I don't want people to sit here and think that me doing this is being a coward and backing out and not taking care of my kids. I'm doing this as a purpose to not punish my children, and I wouldn't say necessarily punish my ex, but I'm not going to reward my ex, I'll tell you that. You know, I'm not going to let her get whatever she wants and I get nothing, basically, and get the shaft like usual, because I've been through 2 divorces prior, and in both divorces I've gotten the shaft. I've gotten screwed on both, where they got, you know, full custody and I only got visitations, which visitation's not an enforceable order, that I paid an arm and a leg in money, didn't get to see my kids. I got trash talked by my kids, or my kids don't know me, and so forth. So I'm not, from experience, I'm doing this from experience. I'm not going to just give in and let a third person do the same exact thing that my other 2 exes have done, because that's not fair and it's not right. First off, any woman that puts a price on a child's head doesn't deserve custody of a child to begin with. When you use your child as a monetary gain, or as a piece of possession or property or something like that, when you see your child as that to get money out of them, then you're not seeing your child as a person, a human being, somebody with emotions and feelings and the ability to think of things themselves or have a mind of their own. You know, you're kind of using them as a valuable piece of property, and I don't see any of my kids that way. Because I know that if I ever got custody of my kids, I don't want a dime from any of my exes. And I know I've said that before, but I do not want a dime from any of my exes. And if by chance a court enforced her to pay child support, the moment I get that child support, I'm turning it back around and sending it back, because I don't want her stinking money. I don't want it. You know, not that she'd probably have much money, because she hardly ever worked much. But the fact is that I don't want it, because I don't want my kid looking at me that I was collecting money off my child's head, because that's not right. That is physically and morally and mentally wrong. And it should be, I think legally it should be wrong. It takes 2 people to make a child, 2 people to raise a child, 2 people to support a child, not just one. And the way it should work is the system should force that there should be no child support unless extreme circumstances, such as like a rape or case or something like that, or I don't know, something like that, where it's so severe that it requires it. Then I could see maybe the use of child support, but I wouldn't call it as child support. I'd call it as, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, it's punishment in a sense. But in a situation where just because 2 parents choose not to get along, or don't get along, or don't want to get along, or clearly don't get along because they just don't, that shouldn't be a reason for some other parent to collect child support. Just because one parent doesn't like the other parent, I mean, I was accused of doing so many things that I didn't do, doesn't give the right to take me for child support and then keep my kid from me, not let me see my kid, not let me spend time with my kid. That is wrong. I mean, the court should be like, well, if you don't want to be financially supportive of your child 100%, then you need to let your ex, the father of the child, have his custody, or his, half custody, or his, what do you want to call it, parenting time, or whatever, or, however, whatever you want to call it. I mean, every state is different, everybody sees it differently, but, this way, like, when my daughter is in my care at that immediate time, I'd be responsible for all financial. So whether it be like a medical or dental, food, clothing, roof over the head, whatever it might be, that I'd be spending time with my daughter, and I would be responsible for those finances during that time. Then when my daughter would go back to the mother, then the mother of my daughter would be responsible for financially supporting her at that time, food and all that stuff like that. That's the way it should be. There should be no child support, because you know why? The government doesn't regulate it. They don't, kind of like EBT cards, or food stamp cards as they call it in most states. It's a card that basically puts cash on there, for people that get cash assistance, where they can go to an ATM and pull that cash to use it towards miscellaneous stuff. And then that also uses it towards food stamps. And the state semi-regulates that card, I guess. Like, if it's food stamps, it can only be used towards particular items. It can't be used towards everything. And there's things to watch. Now, by allowing the person to go to an ATM and pull that cash out, now that money can't get tracked. If they would leave it on the card and say certain things can't be purchased on there, whatever, then certain things can't be purchased, it would be better. Child support, if child support exists, should be regulated and tracked, and it should be monitored to know that the money is going towards a kid, and then any unused money or unnecessary uses of the money should go back to the father. So if, let's say, the mother uses it to take a kid to Dairy Queen for an ice cream, which is a treat, child support shouldn't be used for that. That should be what she's doing out of her own money. If they're taking the child on a trip to Split Rock Lighthouse in Minnesota, let's just hypothetically say, again, that should be at the mother's expense, not the father's expense, or the one that's paying child support. Child support is supposed to be for healthy home-cooked meals or food, or should go towards helping with school funding, like if it's for lunches or milks or whatever. If the child is going to get involved in like band or some kind of sport in school, then it should help to pay for that. Books for school, shoes or clothing for school. I can't remember if I just said that. I'm sorry, I'm a one-track mind. But stuff like that, then it should be monitored, and if that money isn't being used towards it, then whatever was overused or misspent, the mother should automatically be ordered to have to pay that back to the father. Any unused money for the month, let's say now I pay $900 a month, right, for my 2 boys. Now let's say she only used $300 of that $900 in that month. $600 should automatically be deducted from the next month. So then they only take $300 out of that check. That, or the $600 should have a check cut and sent back to the father, so then the father has his money back. That's the way it should be. But it's not, and it'll never be that way. It'll never be regulated. That's why I don't believe in child support, because it's not a fair, concrete, reliable system. So that's kind of the current status of that. One of the things you can do if you're just first joining us here on this channel, or joining me on this channel here, down below you can subscribe, you can like the button, you can also share it with people that you know that you want to get this information out to, etc. Any pertinent information that I think is important will be posted in the comments, not comment, but the information section below. Also, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a link out here. I'm not asking anybody to donate anything. I don't care if you do or don't, but just in case, because I know some people may ask down the road if this channel and the views become big enough. I'm gonna post a link down below. It's a donation to my PayPal. That's if you want to help with any kind of financial situation, such as with the money there, like with income taxes. If people want to help donate, especially support my channel and the videos, then I would use it towards like income taxes. If or important things to help me keep my head above float with this situation. I'm not like I said, I'm not expecting it from anybody, because this is not their fault. This is not their responsibility. It's not their problem to begin with. It's just there in case people want to throw out a nice gesture. Any extra money will go towards if I have any legal expenses or whatever that I have to worry about during the fighting of this divorce or whatever in custody for my daughter. It'll go to help legal expenses of that. Otherwise, ultimately, once everything is there, any excess money, I'll probably end up donating to certain charities or certain fundraiser groups or whatever. Like if it's a Father's Rights Movement, Fathers for Justice, I can donate to. One of the charities I believe in is cystic fibrosis, because my cousin, who had passed away at the age of 18, she had died from cystic fibrosis many years ago. Otherwise, I do believe in Make-A-Wish Foundation, as I did get to, with my job, get to experience that. We had a person or a kid or child that came through at my work, and we were able to, they donated about $400 to that part of the program to shop with us, but in the long run I ended up going around walking the entire mall, and I raised about another $500 in that same day. So his ultimate goal of coming in and getting what he wanted wasn't originally there, because he knew that the funds weren't there. And so with the extra $500, he was actually able to get the things that he wanted. So that was an awesome feeling. So I do believe in the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So I like I said, any excess money would get donated to certain select charities and stuff like that, depending upon the situation and all. To the guys, and I apologize, and I mean no disrespect to women on this, and for the one and few good women that are out there that have a good heart, good mind, good soul. To the men out there, if you're ever in a relationship and you have the ability to have children, be very careful, be smart. I'm not the only one with the same problems out here. There's other fathers that are getting screwed to the T left and right. They get looked at as a bad father. They get mocked and sit there and think that we don't want to be a father in our children's life. That's not the case. There's a lot of guys that just don't have the time, they don't have the money, they don't have the energy, which I know in some cases that's not an excuse, but I'm just saying, like my situation, it's a compilation of everything. The money is really tight. I mean, I am so tight. I mean, I'm able to pay all my bills at the moment, but it is so tight to the T that I don't have excess money, and my credit card debt is actually getting relatively bigger because of it. If I could wipe off all my debt right now, I'd be perfectly fine. But with me working 2 full-time jobs, me being tired, and my depression, anxiety, and getting the best of me, it doesn't make it easy. And I know that there's other people in the same situation, and I'm not saying it's an official excuse, but at the same time, it is tough, it is hard, it is rough. Parental alienation is a big thing in most situations involving children, where one parent will feed the child full of bad stuff, and they're only hearing one side of the story, and then that just becomes implanted like concrete. It's like cemented into their mind, and it's so hard to change that view. And in most cases, that parental alienation is wrong. It's misfed. It's lies. It's slander. And keep in mind, it's not only hurting the child, but it's hurting the non-custodial parent, usually the father in most cases. and most want to give up. There's been, fathers out there who have killed themselves, committed suicide because it got so bad in the court system. They just couldn't take it any longer, or a judge had found in favor of the mother. And what is that accomplishing, when you drive somebody so to the point of wanting to just end their life? What is the point of that? Because then if the father's dead, not only are you hurting the child, because now the child has no father, official biological father in their life, but you're not gaining anything financially out of the father because he's dead. You're not going to gain any money out of that person, So what did you prove? I mean, what is it that you're proving out there? So women, for the few that have a great heart, great soul, great mind, thank you, from the bottom of my heart for standing tall, for doing what's right, and for not stooping to the level like the majority of women do out there. I do think it's a very small percentage of women out there that would mutually work with the father of the child or children. There's very few that'll actually compromise and work and not want child support and will share 50-50 custody. It's a very, very small percentage. Most women these days know how the court system in general will favor women, and the system itself favors women, and they can get what they want on it, and they make financial gain. And there's mothers out there that'll just use that money to go party with their friends and stuff, and then dump off the child with somebody else or whatever, So, to the women that are 100% respectful, understanding, compassionate, and don't stoop to the level of dishonesty and disrespectfulness and all that, thank you. To the men out there who are in relationships that have the potential of having children or do have children, and you're unmarried, first thing I would recommend is think twice before you get married. Really think about it. No joke, because I can guarantee you that piece of paper that you sign for your marriage is not in the benefit for you. It's not in the benefit for anything other than the woman. It's more or less saying that at this point, once you sign that paper for marriage, that the mother or the woman, if you get a divorce, can go after you for they either call it spousal support in some states or alimony. It also represents the fact that a woman basically is going to get 99% of everything, while you get basically 1%, if you're lucky to even get that. It's a way for them to control you. It's a way for them to gain personal access to your finances, or whatever the case may be. It's built for a woman. So if you're thinking about marriage, think twice. If I honestly could, all these people that I see, like when I look at the local newspaper where they got marriage licenses and stuff, if I could honestly send them all a sympathy card, I sure as well would. I honestly would, because I feel bad for anybody that would want to get married. I know that after this third time, I'm done. I will not marry ever again. Never in my life. As far as dating, it is what it is. You can date somebody, and if you want, but it's I don't know. It's like almost in most cases, like, what is the point? Like, I think in most cases it can become more of a headache than it does some good. But if you haven't had kids, watch it. Don't let the wrong head think, because I guarantee you, if you end up with a kid, it's not going to look good for you. You're going to be in a tough fight for the rest of your life, at least until the child turns 18. So, if you don't want to go through the things that I'm going through, or a lot of other fathers are going through out there, be smart. Don't start. Don't think with the wrong head, and don't risk having children. Other than that, not much else is new. I'm still working my 2 full-time jobs. Totally tired, totally exhausted, trying to, figure out how to sell all this stuff. So, I don't know much else as of right now. I'm going to leave it off with that. I know, again, I apologize to anybody that feels like they're listening to the same thing over and over and over. Some of this is for the better good, just so that way it's a refresher, a reminder, and it sticks to people's heads, what's going on. When I get some more details, like I said, as far as if anything else up comes here, I will keep you posted as far as me going back and reopening this restraining order and where that goes, or if I don't post anything else related to it, anybody that doesn't show up to the court hearing, I will update you with the court hearing. One last thing here before I think about it here. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos out there, people doing like First Amendment audits. First Amendment is basically your freedom of press, freedom of speech kind of thing. It's people, like, they'll go into a public courthouse, for example. They'll stand in a public lobby and film. They'll go into a police department, public lobby, film. They'll go into a post office, public lobby, and film. Again, it's a public accessible area, which in a public environment, nobody has any expectation of privacy. And they're trying to prove a point, you know, that it doesn't matter what you film and, you know, and what people think or say. If you don't want to be filmed, then don't go out in public. It's plain and simple. There's cameras all over the place. There's video cameras at, you know, stores and buildings recording you at all times. There's people with cell phones out there. You don't know if they're recording you. There's people with body cameras, like cops and stuff like that, and people that are randomly out there. People with spy cameras, people with dash cams in their car. I mean, you name it. There's cameras all over the world. It's unpreventable, especially with the technologically advanced world that we're in today. So it's just an expectation to always presume that you're always being recorded at any point in time. But with that said, a guy had gone into a courthouse, and this made me think of something like, why is it in a courthouse the judges or the sheriff or the county enforce an order that there are no cameras allowed in the courtroom, but yet you'll see when you go into most courtrooms, there'll be cameras hanging from the ceiling or whatever, but they say no cameras in the courtroom, but yet they record on their camera, and then and they say no audio recordings as well, but yet, like when I went to my last hearing here, there was a sign on the judge's podium that said recording, and it was basically a light that once the light turned on, the hearing was being recorded at that time. So obviously they're recording both audio and visual. So I called the courthouse to find out about that last hearing that I went to, that restraining order hearing, to get a copy of the video and audio of that. The court administrator had informed me that they don't do that. And I'm like, well, then what's the point of recording? If they don't do that, then why do they have cameras and why do they have audio recordings, you know, going on in there if they don't release it? They told me that the court report, whatever, you know, the one that they type up, the what do you want to call it? The you know, basically, there's a court reporter that types up the entire conversation and the entire event. They say that that is the official record. How can that be an official record? First off, they're only typing certain parts of the actual hearing. They're not typing the whole entire thing of everything being said. Why can't we have our own personal cameras in there? They say that it's one of the comments that was made in the last video that I watched. One of the officers in the court there had mentioned that it's basically, so let's say you're in a court hearing and you got a jury in there. It's basically, it can tamper with the jury. It can cause them to be intimidated, or it can cause them to change their decision and stuff like that. But why, you know, whatever their decision is, their decision. Why should a recording make any? Why is there a presumption that any recording of anything going on in a courtroom would make any effect on any outcome in that courtroom? Other than the fact that the only logical answer I can say is that they don't want recordings because they don't want the reality or the truth being exposed out there. So basically, if they're going to find somebody guilty, let's say, and somebody in there in the camera comes in there and is recording it, and they go, "Oh no, he's innocent." Well, why did you go from guilty to innocent because of a camera? If you feel he's guilty, he's guilty. So what? It's on record. It's being shown. It's, you know, it is what it is. Don't be afraid to make that decision because that is what it is. You know, we shouldn't be afraid of the court, you know, cameras in a courtroom and being able to record our own, especially our own hearings. We shouldn't have to worry about that. The court should record them and have the entire thing on file. The only reason I see for not recording it, and, you know, audio or visually, is the dishonesty that goes on in a courtroom. they don't want people to see the reality of how dishonest judges and lawyers and anybody else that has an effect in there. They don't want to see the reality of how unjust it is and unfair it is. You know, that they want to cover up their tracks. They don't want things being exposed the way they are. I mean, like I said, if I would have had audio-video recording of this last hearing, everybody would be seeing exactly the reality of the evidence that was provided, that there was ongoing harassment, the behavior of my soon-to-be ex. They would be seeing that, and they would also see me questioning her and her answers legitimately. She answered honestly, which is great. But again, they would see the reality that the judge didn't find in favor of me and claim there was no harassment, even though there was harassment. What grounds there was to consider no harassment is beyond me. But if I could have that video footage, everybody could witness it for themselves to see how crappy that is. That we take it to court and they find in favor of her. And that would be ongoing, let's say April 17th coming up, that if I was able to record that hearing, audio and visually, people would be able to see the reality that if they grant Grand Forks, they'll see how illegal the court is being with granting jurisdiction to a county that doesn't deserve jurisdiction, that technically should have no right to jurisdiction based on the information that I provide. But again, if somebody has any logical answer out there, I'd love to hear the comments below. I'd love to read to see what people say, why they believe that the courts don't allow audio and video in a courtroom. I'm not saying all courts are that way, because I know there was a former friend of mine that I used to talk to quite a while ago out of West Virginia that actually had his entire hearing recorded. He was able to get that footage from the courts, and that was awesome because the reality set in, the truth was exposed, and it was there. So some courts do allow it, but why do all courts not allow it? Or is there any workaround? Does anybody know any loopholes of the system that can allow me to record my own hearing, or to get a recording of the hearing, or to get, you know, audio, video, whether it be audio or visual or both? If anybody's got any kind of suggestions, that'd be great. If anybody has any reasons or explanations why the majority of the courts don't allow it, you know, what your opinion is, or if you got any factual based information, I would love to read the comments below, so feel free to post it. But that was just something that's been on my mind since I've been watching some of these First Amendment audit videos. So, anyways, I got to start getting ready for work here. So, again, anybody that sat through this entire video, this is basically 40 minutes worth of video, thank you for checking it out. Thank you for sticking through the whole entire video. Again, I apologize for any kind of repeating of myself. Sometimes I talk real fast, ramble real fast, and my mind's going just as fast, so sometimes I stumble back over the same stuff that I've already talked about. Or I'm just not clear thought. I mean, I don't pre-plan this. Like I said, this is live, and you know, I wouldn't say live because you're going to be watching a recording, but this is unedited footage, so this is exactly the way you see it. I'm not using any software to record anything. I'm not going on my computer and cutting out imagery and stuff like that. I want people to see exactly how it is as it happens. So, again, I apologize for that. Otherwise, I thank you for sticking through. Feel free to subscribe, like, share, comment below. And, again, any information that's necessary will be provided in the information below. And, again, that PayPal link will be below if anybody has a generous heart or whatever and wants to donate. You're more than welcome to. No obligation. I'm not asking, I'm not begging, and I don't care. It's just there in case, so people don't have to ask down the road. And again, one last thing as a reminder of that date and time one more time. April 17th, 3:45 p.m. Central Standard Time, Kandiyohi County Courthouse in Willmar, Minnesota. 56201 is the zip code. If you want to join, you want to come to the hearing and sit in on it and watch what happens yourself live and in the flesh, I have no problem with anybody showing up. The more the merrier, the better off you get a chance to see. Again, if the court for some reason doesn't allow people to come in and sit in there, you can sit out in the hall on the benches, and I will brief everybody as soon as the hearing is done. I will come out and I will brief everybody exactly what happened in that hearing and keep you posted. And I will also, again, for those who can't make it or don't want to make it or whatever and want to follow up, I will post a video here after it happens with the results of it. So thank you for joining me, and you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll be talking to you guys again soon.